may still,
Okay.
you're not over here. You work here, so they pay you.
I know, I mean, maybe. You told me you're 16. I know, it's like, other than the first actual, it's like older. I know, that's what
We know, I know everybody's name.
17.
I know everybody's name. Yeah, you ready? Running this morning.
Yeah. You probably know more than I do.
Rat. She was walking when I saw her.
I was running. Your eyes must be blind.
Slate. Uncle Steve.
Grandpa.
Grandpa Steve. Shandy. Art Gabriel.
You're being recorded.
Oh yeah, sorry for my
Oh, yeah?
virtual
Is
students.
my
Yeah,
head
for
shiny?
breaking.
Oh yeah.
Is my head shiny? Oh, I'm going virtual.
Yeah, oh yeah. Just tell them that. 7
Alright. Alright, sorry I'm blocking.
No, you're fine, you're fine. We're trying to get books ready anyways.
New to this world.
I know.
I may get some of these.
Okay, yeah, take them. I plugged them in the other day, so they shall be charged.
Okay. They've had to bounce back and forth. Do you want, how many on, like, everybody on Friday? or-
Well, on Fridays, my other classes, I'll only need like 12 for most of my classes, but tomorrow I'll have 19. But graders. But I might go with them when they don't. I don't need to for them. But something that I never work on. It's not a big deal. Okay. Alright, I want you guys to turn to page 4 in your textbooks. Okay, those textbooks, those are your textbooks, okay? So, put your name in there, if you want to, on the little lines. And those workbooks are yours too, so make sure you put your name in your workbook. Okay? Now, what is... I have just enough. Okay. Alright.
Hold on. I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Are you talking about the math book?
Yes.
This one?
Yes. And then the workbook is yours too to keep. Okay. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. Okay. Okay, so we're going to do our textbooks today. We are going to be, they didn't have markers before. We are going to be back and forth between our textbooks and our workbooks. That's kind of what we're going to do though, okay? But today we're going to be in our textbooks, tomorrow we'll be in our workbooks. Okay, so bring your workbooks tomorrow. What time is it? Okay, I won't be in your class tomorrow, okay? But before we get out of the class, I'll tell you what we're gonna do tomorrow. Just make sure you bring your workbooks, okay? Make sure you bring your workbooks, okay? All right, let's go ahead and get started on our lesson on page 4, okay? So we are talking on the first lesson about integers. Our first chapter is over integers, okay? Now, our first lesson is over integers and absolute value, okay? So, at the top of the page, up here, it says the following numbers are integers, and it shows you -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, okay? These are integers. These are numbers, okay? These are numbers you would find on number lines, right? Okay? So this is what we're going to be looking for. These are integers. Now, once we go on from integers, we're going to work on what the absolute value is of an integer. Now, the absolute value of a number, whether it's negative or positive, is the distance to the number of 0 on a number line. So if we draw a number line here, okay, we're going to try and figure out where that number is and how many times it takes us to get to 0, okay? So we have Absolute value of -4. Okay, so when you have lines like this and a number inside of it, these lines indicate that it's the absolute value. Okay, so if I see this right here, like -4, this isn't just -4, this is the absolute value of -4. Okay, so when we see this, we're going to take the lines off of it for a second and we're going to look at -4. Then we're going to graph -4 on a number line. Okay, -4 will be right here, correct? Okay, now, when we try to find the absolute value of -4, we're trying to figure out the distance to 0. So how many times will it take us to get to -4 to 0?
4
times.
4 times.
1, 2, 3, 4 times. So the absolute value of -4 is what?
4
4. Because it took us how many times to get to 0?
4 times.
4 times. Okay? Now, right here it says I have the absolute value of +4. So I would go on my number line, find +4. Okay? How many times is it going to take us to get to +4 to 0?
4 times.
1, 2, 3, 4. So that absolute value of 4 is
4.
4. Okay? Do we see that that's how that works a little bit? Okay? So let's go ahead and move down to finding absolute value on example number 1. Okay? Let me scroll down this. Okay, so this says find the absolute value of 2. We do the same thing. Okay? We're graphing it to just see how that works on the number line. So we have the absolute value of what? 2. Okay, that's what we're trying to find. So then we graph 2 on a number line. Here's 0. We go 1, 2, here's 2. Okay? To find the absolute value of this, what do we have to do?
Find the number of times it takes to get
Find the distance between how it takes to get from 2 to 0. So it's what?
2.
1, 2. So the absolute value of 2 is
2.
2. Okay? Same thing with down here. -3. We take, okay, the absolute value of -3 is what? We get our number line, okay? We first have to graph 0, because that's what we're trying to find, get to, right? So we take 1, 2, 3, this is what? -3. How many times does it take us to get to -3 to 0?
3 times.
1, 2, 3. My second hour class, the other 7th grader said, Coach Steve, it's just how many in-betweens there are. And he's right. So it's 1, 2, 3. Okay? So the absolute value of -3 is what?
3.
3. Do we understand that? So it's kind of the pattern of whatever the number is inside is what it's going to be, and it's going to be positive. So whether this is negative or positive, it's going to be positive. Okay? But this is definitely a way to check that, to make sure that you're getting to the right number. Okay? Make sense? Yes? Any questions on that? Okay, so let's move down to the on your own at the bottom. Okay? Let's do number 1. And it says the absolute value of 7. Okay? Get our number line. What do we have to do first?
Graph 0.
Put our 0 on our graph. Then, what am I doing? Okay. 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. How many times did it take us to get from 7 to 0?
7 times.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the absolute value of 7 is what?
7.
7. Okay? Alright, let's do number 3. And it says the absolute value of -5. Right? -5? The absolute value of -5. Okay? The absolute value of -5. Okay? On our number line, what do we do first?
Graph 0.
Graph 0. It's negative, so we're going to go to the left, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, -5. Okay? How many times it takes us to get to what, Christian? What do we have to do here? Okay, so we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the absolute value of -5 is what? 5. Okay? Do we understand that? Okay. Turn over to page, or look at page 5. This is where it kind of gets a little more tricky, okay? Now we're comparing numbers. Okay, so we're comparing numbers. Okay, it 4. Okay? So, the first thing that we have to do here is figure out what our absolute value of negative 4 is. Okay? So, if we have to, we'll go to our number line. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. If you know this and you don't have to draw the number line, that's okay. Unless it says graph a number line. Okay? Make sense? No, you're not your word, but you're just in textbooks, okay? Alright, so we have negative 4 here. How many times take us to 0?
4 times.
4 times, okay? So, the absolute value of negative 4 is 4. So now we have to compare 1 to
Positive.
4.
positive 4, okay? Because this absolute value of negative 4 is really 4. So then we graph the absolute, what it actually is on here. So now we're going to bring in greater than or less than's or equal to's, okay? Do remember that. What does this mean?
No,
Less than.
that's less.
Okay, so if I have 5, 2, what does it say? What does it say?
5 is greater than 2.
Okay, this little pointy thing right here points to the small number. This gap right here is the big number. This is basically eating the small number. The big one, if it's open here, it's eating the small one. Okay, the little point is where the small number is at. Okay, so if I would say, ooh, that's not what I wanted to do. What does that say?
7 is
7 is
less
less
than 10.
than 10.
Okay. Then if I say, oops, what did I do there? What does it say?
10 is
10 is
less than
6. But that's
16.
wrong.
That's wrong, isn't it? Okay, it should be like this. 10 is what?
Greater than 6.
Greater than 6. Okay, make sense?
I thought there was a 1 there, that's why.
Yeah, okay. So we understand that that's what so we're bringing in, now we're bringing in greater than or less than. Okay? So we have 4 and 1. Which one is greater than, is 1 greater than 4 or is 4 greater than 1?
4 is greater than
4 is greater than 1, okay? So now when we go to say, so when we go to write this problem, what we do is we put 1, because it said compare these two numbers, okay? So we put 1 is less than, okay? Yes, 4, but what did they actually ask us? To compare 1 and what?
4. Negative 4.
The absolute.
Absolute
The absolute value of negative 4. So we would write this 1 is less than the absolute value of
4.
negative 4. Okay, and that would be our answer. So do we understand that yes, we broke it down to what our absolute value was. We graphed it on the number line to figure out which one was bigger. But then we realized, okay, 4 is bigger than 1, but 4 is actually the absolute value of negative 4. So that's how we would write this. Okay, let's do example or on your own number 5, okay? So it says absolute value of negative 2 is what? That's a terrible circle. To negative 1. Okay? So the first thing we have to decide is what's the absolute value of negative 2?
2.
2. Okay? So then we graph on our number line. Okay, negative 1, which is this one. Then 2, because we said this was 2, right? Goes there. Okay? So these are our two graphs, or our 2 points. Which one is greater than what?
2 is greater than negative 1.
2 is greater than negative 1. Okay? But 2 is actually what?
Negative 2. Oh, the absolute.
The absolute value of negative 2. So the absolute value of negative 2 is what to negative 1?
Greater than.
Greater than. Do we see that? Because look, we got the absolute value of negative 2, which was 2. We graphed it. 2 is bigger than negative 1, but 2 is actually the absolute value of negative 2, so the absolute value of negative 2 is greater than negative 1. Okay, do we see how that worked? Okay, I want you to do number 6 on a piece of paper. By the way, this is a great time to be working out some problems that we're doing in class. That way you have notes for them, that way you put them back on them. Or, would someone want to come do it on the board? Okay, come here, Emily.
What number are we doing?
Number 6.
You want me to draw the?
I want you to do it how you would do it. Show me how you would do it. Okay, I want everyone watching, okay?
You want me to draw the number on the 2?
Yeah, sure, do it. Do break it down how we've been breaking it down.
So you graph the 0, and you graph 6, and you graph negative 6. But then that would have to be turned into 7, because that's the absolute value.
No, look, where's your absolute value at? Your absolute value is where?
Oh, wrong one.
No, it goes in your thing. Okay, this is negative 7,
Yeah.
okay? Is there an absolute value lines around it? Because that's just negative 7, okay? This is the absolute value of 6. So this is where you find what the absolute value of 6 is. What's the absolute value of 6? No, think about it.
Oh, absolute
Okay, so you have 6 here.
6.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so it'd still be 6. Okay, so we have negative 7. Okay, so put your points here. Okay, you have a point here, which is negative 7, which goes to here. Okay, you have 6, because it is the absolute value of 6. Okay, now you look and see, is negative 7 greater than or less than or equal to 6? Negative 7 is greater than 6? Less than? Okay, so then show me what you put in there. Good, okay? Alright, so, see, I see where she kind of struggled at, okay? We hadn't done an absolute, we did not do an absolute value that was positive inside, okay? So when we have an absolute value that's positive inside, okay, so if the absolute value is 6, we still graph 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, okay? How many times did it take from positive 6 to 0? 6 times, okay? That is still positive, okay? Majority of the time, if you have the absolute value of something, it's always going to be positive. Whether it's positive already or if it's negative, it's most likely always going to be positive. It's always going to be positive, okay? Make sense? Okay, so she did that, she did 6, then number negative 7 is less than absolute value of 6, okay? Let's do one more. Let's do number 8. 9 is what to the absolute value of negative 9. Okay? So what's the absolute value of negative 9? 9. Okay? We graph on a number line. 0. Where's 9 at? So this is 9 and 9. So what would this be? Is 9 greater than or less or equal to 9? Equal. So 9 is equal to the absolute value of negative 9. Do we see that? Okay, do we see that when we get this here and it's 9, if 9 and 9 are the same number, it's equal to that. Because it's going to take us the same amount of times on both of them to get to 0. Okay, make sense? Alright. Let's move down to example number 4, real life application. Okay. It says, let me actually pull this up here so we can look at it. Because I'm not going to grab it. Okay, right here, we're looking at right here. Okay. It says a freezing point is a temperature at which a liquid becomes a solid. Okay? The first question we have to answer is which substance in the table has the lowest freezing point? Okay? And then it says, is the freezing point of mercury or butter closer to the freezing point of water, which is 0 Celsius? Okay, so this is our substances. This is our freezing point in Celsius, okay? Now, it says graph each freezing point. So I'm not in the graphics that I'm referring to, but it's graphed here, okay? So what is butter?
35.
35, so we go to 0, we find 35. Oh, they have butter graphed right there, okay? What is airplane fuel?
Negative 50.
Negative 53, so we go to 0, we go to negative 53, oh, and there's airplane fuel, okay? Now we go to honey, which is what?
Negative 3.
Negative 3, we go to 0, look, there's negative 3, honey is on the number line, okay? Then we go to mercury, what's mercury?
Negative 39.
Okay, so go to 0, negative 39, it's graphed there. Candle wax is what?
55.
55, go to 0, go to 55, candle wax is graphed, okay? So all of our substances are graphed on what their freezing point Celsius degrees is, okay? Now, what was the first question it asked us?
Which substance in the table has the lowest freezing point?
Okay, so which substance in the table has the lowest freezing point? Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to look. Okay, now, what are our two farthest away from 0?
Candle wax and airplane.
Okay, candle wax and airplane fuel. Okay, so let's take the absolute value of candle wax and airplane fuel because they're the farthest away, okay? So, airplane fuel is what?
Negative 53.
Negative 53, so let's find the absolute value of negative 53. How many times would it take for us to get from negative 53 to 0?
53 times.
53 times, okay? Now, we have candle wax here, which is, oh wait, yes, I'm doing this right, I think. Okay. 1 second, to make sure I do this right. Oh, this one's easy, guys. I'm sorry. Which substance in the table has the lowest freezing point? Has the lowest freezing point?
Airplane fuel.
Airplane fuel. Why?
Because it's negative.
53.
Because negative 53. It's on the negative side. We're looking at the negative side. We want to see which one is graphed the farthest away because that means it would be the lowest freezing point. Okay? Does that make sense? That one seemed like, was that pretty easy? Because I think I was making that more difficult than it needed to be. But the next one is the one I need to do this on. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay? So you find 0. You want to find the lowest freezing point, which means you go all the way to the left. Which one's graphed the farthest away? Airplane fuel. That means it'd be the lowest freezing point. Okay? Now this one is the one. Is the freezing point of mercury or butter closer to the freezing point of 0? Okay? So what is the freezing point of mercury?
Negative 39.
Negative 39 is mercury. What is the freezing point of butter?
35.
Butter is 35? Okay, butter is 35. Okay? Now, if we're trying to find which one of these is closer to 0, which is what we're trying to find, we need to find the absolute value of both of them. Okay? So how many times will it take us to get from negative 39 to 0?
39.
Okay, so the absolute value of negative 39 is 39. How many times will it take us to get from 35 to 0?
35.
35 times. So the absolute value of 35 is what?
35.
35. So now you compare these two numbers. Which one on a number line would be, is the freezing point of mercury or butter closer to the freezing point of water? Which
Butter.
one would be closer to the
Butter.
butter? Okay, so see how they did that. The freezing point of water is 0, so you can use the absolute value. Okay, so you take the absolute value of negative 39, which is 39, the absolute value of 35, which is 35. Because 35 is less than 39, because it would take us only 35 times to get to 0 instead of 39 times to get to 0, the freezing point of butter would be closer. Okay, and then you can think of that on your number line here. Okay, we have 35 here and 39 here. It would be closer for us to get to 0 before with 39. Okay, does that make sense? Do we see how we got that? Hey, y'all are kind of like,
Oh, yeah.
Any questions on that? Okay, so understand how we got that. Okay, this question down here says, is the freezing point of airplane fuel or candle wax closer to the freezing point of water? So what is the freezing point of airplane fuel?
Negative 53.
Negative 53. And what is the freezing point of candle wax?
55.
55, okay? And they're trying to get to what? The freezing point of water, which is
0.
0. So can we do absolute value?
Yes.
Yes, so absolute value, negative 53 and 55. What's the absolute value of negative 53?
53.
53, so take this 53 times to get to 0. What's the absolute value of 55?
55.
55, so take this 55 times to get to 0, okay? And then it's what is it asking us? Is the freezing point of airplane fuel or candle wax, which one is closer to the freezing point of 0? So which one would be closer to 0?
The airplane fuel.
The airplane fuel, because it would take us less amount of time to get to 0 than it would this one. Does that make sense? Okay, this one is less than this one, so this one would be closer to 0 than this one would be. Okay, do we understand how we got that?
Yeah.
Are we sure? I'm a little confused. Do we get it? Any questions? No? Okay. Good, we got through that really fast, actually. You have had plenty of time to work on this. Much faster than other classes.
Because we were small.
You are small. Okay, so what I want you to do is go to page 6 and 7. Okay? Right now what you're going to do, you're going to have time to do it in class. If you don't finish it, I want you to do it and do it as homework and bring it back tomorrow. We'll go over tomorrow and then I'll tell you what we're going to do after this, okay? So, for 7th math, you're going to do pages 6 and 7, 4 through 44 evens, okay? Which is 22 problems, okay? So 4 through 44 evens. You can do it now. You probably might even finish it, okay? This is what I want you to do. Now tomorrow, which they will, with whoever comes in here will know. I'll tell them, okay? Tomorrow what you're gonna do, bring your workbooks, and then tomorrow, I'll have it on the board too, okay? Tomorrow bring your workbooks and you're gonna do page 4 in your workbooks. You're gonna do this practice, okay? But do not do it tonight. Do not do it tonight. You better not do it tonight. You're not gonna do it tonight, what am I saying? You'll have plenty of stuff to do, okay? You're gonna do this tomorrow, okay? It's 1 through 16. You probably honestly might finish it in class, okay? Because it'll be going over what we're going over right now, okay? So we understand what we're doing, okay? So right now, once you're working on 4 through 44 evens in your book, and then tomorrow you'll bring your workbooks and you'll work out your workbooks. Yes, ma'am?
If we do not finish that tomorrow in class, do we take it home for homework?
Yes, if you don't finish it in class, take it home for homework, okay? And then bring it back the next day, okay? Yes, sir?
Do we write in the book?
No, I'd rather you not, like, but if you, I mean, if you have to sketch some stuff on there, I'm fine with that. Just kind of erase it as you kind of are done with it. But I'd rather you work all of your work out on a separate sheet of paper. I want to see your work, which a lot of your work for absolute value isn't going to be super hard. Yeah, you're not going to do a lot of working out unless it says graph something. Yes, sir. Did you ask a question? Okay.
What paper? That's what paper?
Yes, do so.
That we do like all.
Yes, do all of this, the 4 through 44 on a separate sheet of paper and work if it ever, like right here, you don't have to really work anything out. But if like it asks you to work stuff out or graph it, just do it on a separate paper, okay? Now, I want you to put the number, and I want to be able to see the number. I don't care if you go up, down, side, side, I don't care, as long as I can see the number and your answer clearly, okay? Everyone understand? Yes, sir.
Is it like on this one?
Yep, so you'll start here, 4, you just even, so you do 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 34, 36, 38, 40, 52, 44. Okay, and then the last one. Okay, you understand? Okay. You have to work it on it, you probably have, let's see here, you have at least, you have like 20 minutes. Okay, you have plenty of time. Plenty of time.
I was turning in the pieces of paper that we write down all the stuff on.
Like your practice or as in
Right,
like this, what you're doing right here.
this assignment. right
Yes,
here.
you'll turn in the paper. Okay, but tomorrow when we get, what'll happen is you can turn it in, and tomorrow what we'll probably do is probably go over it before we start class. Which we won't because you won't be here. So tomorrow, so just turn it in, okay, and then tomorrow just give it on your word of assignment. Yes, sir.
Number 19, it's such a big number. How can we do that?
Number 19, hey, by the way, look what we're doing on the board. We're doing 44, 1. But think about it. Wait, it's only been positive. How many times can you get from negative 125 to 0? 25 times, so it's absolutely negative 125 and 125. But you don't have to do this problem.
Only the evens, okay? 4 through 44 evens, even numbers.